నమస్తే వెల్కమ్ టు మన టీవీ తెలంగాణ గురుకుల విద్యా సంస్థల్లో ఉద్యోగాలకై ప్రిపేర్ అవుతున్న అభ్యర్థుల కోసం మన టీవీ తెలంగాణ ప్రతిరోజు నిర్వహిస్తున్న స్పెషల్ ప్రోగ్రామ్కి స్వాగతం. ఇవాళ మనం ఇండియన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ గురించి మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నాం. అందులో మన టాపిక్ పిఎం అలాగే కౌన్సిల్ ఆఫ్ మినిస్టర్స్, ప్రధానమంత్రి మంత్రుల యొక్క అధికారాలు విధులు. దీనికి సంబంధించి మన సబ్జెక్ట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయడానికి సలహాలు సూచనలు అందించడానికి సబ్జెక్ట్ ఎక్స్పర్ట్ జి అర్జున్ గారు మనతో పాటు ఉన్నారు. ఇక దీనికి సంబంధించి మీకు ఎటువంటి డౌట్స్ ఉన్నా ప్రోగ్రామ్ చివరిలో స్క్రీన్ మీద కనిపిస్తున్న నెంబర్లకు ఫోన్ చేసి డైరెక్ట్గా సార్ని అడిగి డౌట్స్ క్లారిఫై చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఇక మనం ప్రోగ్రాంలోకి వెళ్దాం. సార్ నమస్తే.
నమస్కారం అండి.
ఈ ప్రధానమంత్రి అదేవిధంగా మంత్రి మండలి అధికారాలు విధులు ఎలా ఉంటాయి డీటెయిల్గా వివరిస్తారా?
See, before going into the details of this Prime Minister and other Council of Ministers, one should know the political system of country. Different countries are following different methods of political systems. Some countries may be following the monarch system, some countries may be following the democratic system. Within democracies, you may have the presidential system and you also may have the parliamentary system. Whereas in our country, we are following the parliamentary system. Parliamentary system means government will come out, form with the help of the legislature or the lower house of the house. For example, you take the Prime Minister, whoever has the majority in the Lok Sabha, they have the choice to form the government at the national level, similarly at the state level. So, having the majority in the legislature is the prime condition for the parliamentary system. And the same person will continue in the office as long as they enjoys the majority in the lower house. Loosely we talk that term of the particular government is the 5 years. That is not correct as far as the parliamentary system is concerned. In the parliamentary system, government continues and work or will be in the office as long as they enjoys the majority. Once they lose the majority, they have to forgo their powers. So, at the same time, legislature also has the power to remove the existing government. So, coming to the power, continuing in the power and removal from the power, all these will be in the hands of the legislature. That is why this system is called as a parliamentary system. So, since we have adopted this system from the Britain, UK, we are following the almost similar position from the Britain with slight changes. So, in our country also, to become or to come into the power, one has to rule the majority in the Lok Sabha, that is a popular house, lower house. Whoever possesses the majority in the Lok Sabha, they come into the power. This majority may be in the single form, that single largest party may has the majority like Chandrasekhar Rao in Telangana. Sometimes a group may show their majority, sometimes even a single party has the majority and may take the support of other political parties like Narendra Modi. BJP has the single largest party which has the total majority. In spite of that, it is taking the support of its coalition or the other political parties. Whatever the nature it may be, to form the government, one has to has the majority in the Lok Sabha. Otherwise, they cannot form the government or they cannot continue the office. So, in our country, Prime Minister is the person who leads the Council of Ministers. That this Council of Ministers are formed or created or selected by the Prime Minister only. So, Prime Minister select his team. In the parliamentary system, Prime Minister has the numerical value. That means, he has the for example, we can say that he has the value number 1, other ministers value is 0. If this 0 puts right side of the Prime Minister, that is number 1, then it will become 1 0 10. If the same 0 puts the left side of the 1, it has no numerical value. We can explain this situation in another way. If a minister resigns, that resignation will create a vacancy in the cabinet, whereas the Prime Minister resigns, all other ministers have to lose their posts. That is the importance of the Prime Minister. So, Prime Minister first take the office. If you see the sequence of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. President first asks the Prime Minister to take the office. So, President appoints the Prime Minister. At the same time, President appoints other ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister. So, Council of Ministers is a team of the Prime Minister selected by the Prime Minister, and they continue in the office as long as Prime Minister wish. So, ministers, though they have their own role in the parliamentary system, Prime Minister will play an important role in the Council of Ministers and in the nation, in Indian political system. So, this type of Prime Minister system, this type of political system we have in our country, if we examine the total system of our country, Prime Minister will enjoy more powers than any others, or we can compare the Prime Minister post of India with the President of America. So, President of America, Indian Prime Minister enjoys almost similar powers. There in America, though they are following the presidential system, in India we are following the parliamentary system. Prime Minister enjoys such a powers and has a role in every aspect of political system of our country. Prime Minister of India, if we see the duties or the powers of the Prime Minister of India, he has so many roles in our country. He enjoys the important position, he enjoys the important role in our country, in the cabinet. Prime Minister generally supervises, leads the total political system of our country. If we examine the relationship between the Council of Ministers and Prime Minister, we can see the different aspects of the political system of our country. If you see the role of the Prime Minister and duties of the Prime Minister, right from the beginning the formation of the cabinet, he enjoys the several powers. He is selecting the ministers. I am using the word he is selecting the minister. This depends on the situation of the Prime Minister. For example, you take the Manmohan Singh cabinet, where he has no liberty in selecting his team, because he does not have the majority, his own party does not have the majority at that time. You take the present cabinet, Narendra Modi's cabinet, since Narendra Modi enjoys the total majority, he has the liberty in selecting his team. Whatever it may be, as far as the constitution is concerned, Prime Minister is the person who selects the ministers, and Prime Minister is the person who allocates the departments to the ministers. Prime Minister is the person who calls for the meetings of the Council of Ministers. Prime Minister is the person who chairs the cabinet meeting. That shows his importance. Prime Minister decides the agenda of the Council of Ministers also. So, he is chairing the cabinet meeting, he is deciding the agenda of the cabinet meeting, and he is selecting his team. All this shows that he is the important person, he plays key role in the political system of our country. Ministers also have to follow the suggestions given by the Prime Minister. At the same time, Prime Minister also has the power to coordinate the different departments of the country. For example, a minister take a decision may create problem to other ministry or other departments. For example, Finance Minister does not want to give the money to particular department, that creates problems to other department. Other department minister may raise the question before the nation or before the cabinet. So, this type of problems have to discuss, coordinate or solve. All these things will be done by the Prime Minister's office or Prime Minister. So, he has the another role of coordinating the departments of the country. Prime Minister also has the power to interfere into the other departments also. See here I am using the word Prime Minister coordinate the departments. I am also using the word Prime Minister supervise other departments. That means, in the parliamentary system each department has its own minister. For example, Minister for Education, Minister for External Affairs. Like this each department has its own minister, and that department's cabinet minister has the power to take any decision independently without the support, without the permission of the Prime Minister. Under that situation, if Prime Minister wants, he can interfere into the other departments' affairs and supervise or coordinate the other departments also. Once again, you have to remember one thing here, parliamentary system works on the principle of sink or swim together. All ministers have to work collectively. They have to support their decision within the parliament, outside the parliament unitedly. In the parliamentary system, ministers have no role, no right to defer the decision taken by the cabinet or council of ministers. To have this unanimity, Prime Minister play an important role. He has to supervise, he has to coordinate, he has to look after the affairs of the other department also. Prime Minister also has the another role called is the leader of the party. If we examine the all political parties of our country, we can see the Prime Minister, head of the government or head of the party are enjoying the same person is enjoying the same two posts. For example, you take the BJP, Narendra Modi is the head of the government, Prime Minister of India. At the same time, BJP has the another person as its president. But if you see the other political parties like Congress party or the state level TRS or the TDP, these parties are working with the same person as the party leader and the leader of the government. Even though a person is not working as a party leader or the president of the party, at the same time Prime Minister has to look out the party also. If he commands the support or the strength of the party, he is also in a position to command the nation. So, as long as he is the party leader, as long as he is an important person in the country, he is in a position to command the strength of the country. Prime Minister also act as a leader of the party and also act as a leader of the house. I am using the word leader of the house. Here you have to remember one thing, Parliament works on the basis of the schedule decided by the Business Advisory Committee. This Business Advisory Committee decides the schedule and Parliament work on the basis of the schedule decided by the BAC. And I am using the word Prime Minister is the leader of the house. In the capacity of the leader of the house, Prime Minister has the right to interfere, to express his opinion or his government opinion to the nation in between the deliberations of the house. So, as a leader of the house, he can interfere. At the same time, ministers and the prime ministers also have the right to sit in both houses. Generally, a person who elects for Lok Sabha, he sits in the Lok Sabha, who elects for Rajya Sabha, he sits in the Rajya Sabha, but ministers can sit in both houses to clear the queries raised by the members of the house. So, Prime Minister is the leader of the party, Prime Minister is the leader of the house, Prime Minister has the role to coordinate among the different departments. Prime Minister also act as a bridge between the President and the Council of Ministers. Prime Minister has a role, it is the duty of the Prime Minister to inform the political, legislative developments occurring in the country to the President regularly. Here two or three things are there. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to inform the activities or the developments occurring in the country to the President regularly. President also has the power to call for the Prime Minister to know the activities, that is the legislative activities or the administrative activities that took place in the country. On the demand of the President, Prime Minister has to inform the same to the President. In that way, Prime Minister is act as a bridge between the President and his cabinet. Generally, ministers cannot meet the President directly, for which there is a procedure, protocol. Accordingly, they have to meet the President. Directly, they cannot meet the President. That role will be played by the Prime Minister. So, he acts as a bridge between the President. He has to inform the political, legislative and other developments of the country to the President regularly. President, on the demand of the President, he has to inform the same to the President. Another thing you have to remember is, in the parliamentary system, as I said, each department, each cabinet minister can independently take decision without informing to anyone if it is connected to his department. Suppose a minister exercise such power using his authority, using his if it comes under his purview, President feels that the decision has to place before the cabinet. President informed to the Prime Minister, please keep the same, a decision taken by the minister may keep placed before the cabinet. After the approval of the cabinet only it will come to the force. So, in this way, Prime Minister plays act as a bridge between the ministers and the President. He tried to reduce the problems in administration by acting as a bridge between the President and other ministers. Prime Minister also act as a chief spokesman of the country. Generally, nation also looks toward the Prime Minister about the developments occurring in the country. For example, you take the demonetization. This demonetization was declared by the Prime Minister of India. So, if the nation or the people have any doubts on the demonetization, they look towards the Prime Minister for clarification, not on other persons. I am not saying that other persons are not that important, but if the Prime Minister clarifies, if the Prime Minister inform, that will be taken as the authentic one. Once again, I am going back to the parliamentary system. In the parliamentary system, as I said, whoever has the majority, they form the government. Since the Prime Minister has the majority, he is forming the government. Whatever the decision taken by the Prime Minister, that will be approved by the House. In that way, there is a authenticity, there is a strength behind the statements given by the Prime Minister. So, our Prime Minister is an important person as far as the Indian political system is concerned. He plays an important role. He explained to the nation about the policies of the country, any doubts if it is there in the minds of the people. He also acts as a bridge between the President and other Council of Ministers. He also play an important role in all important appointments of our country. Important appointments means appointments to the different courts, that is Supreme Court and High Courts, appointments to the governor posts, ambassadors, like so many appointments are there in the country. In all appointments, generally Prime Minister plays an important role. Without the permission, without the knowledge of the Prime Minister, these appointments will not be taken place. Sometimes some removal also will be there. As I said, ministers continues in the office as long as per the constitution is concerned during the pleasure of the President, indirectly during the pleasure of the Prime Minister. So, Prime Minister play an important role in appointments, sometimes in the removals. In this way, Prime Minister has a key role, important role in the political system of our country. Once again, you remember one thing, whenever you come across the words like minister, Council of Ministers, Prime Minister, you have to know the difference between all these words. If you come across the word Council of Ministers, which includes all means Prime Minister and other ministers. If you are reading the word minister, you are explaining about the only one minister. Prime Minister is a different person. So, while using the word, while answering to the word, you have to remember to which word you are addressing. Prime Minister means he is the person who appoints, who become the minister, who take the oath first. Ministers comes later on the advice of the Prime Minister. If you are using the word Council of Ministers, which includes everything, that means Prime Minister and all other ministers. Once again, if you are using the ministers, ministers also are of three types: cabinet ministers, deputy ministers, minister of state. As far as the constitution is concerned, only cabinet minister has the role. Whenever you see the statement in a newspapers, there was a cabinet minister on so and so date. That means only the cabinet rank ministers sat and discussed something. So, you have to remember these type of differences. Other ministers are there to support, to assist the cabinet minister. For example, you take the home minister for home affairs. You will have the cabinet minister for home, a deputy minister for home, minister for state for home. Other two ministers are there to assist, to support the cabinet minister in the parliament or outside the parliament. As far as the constitution is concerned, constitution recognizes only the cabinet ministers. So, this type of system we have. When you are answering, you must be careful whether you are answering to the word Council of Ministers or whether you are answering to the word Prime Minister or the other ministers. Just now we discussed about the duties and powers of the Prime Minister. At the same time, you also have the duties and powers of the entire cabinet, that is Council of Ministers. These Council of Ministers generally work on the principle of sink or swim together. They have to take decisions unitedly. Voting is not allowed. Unanimous decisions are taken. If a minister differs from the cabinet opinion or the Council of Ministers opinion, he has to resign from the cabinet and he can express his opinion if it is contrary to the decision of the Council of Ministers. But while continuing the cabinet, he cannot defer, he cannot oppose the decision taken by the Council of Ministers. That is the main principle of the parliamentary system. That is why we are saying sink or swim together. They have to support their decision within the parliament, outside the parliament. Entire Council of Ministers has a duty to approve the policies of nation concern, like budget or other policies which are going to affect the entire nation. This type of decisions will be taken by the Council of Ministers, not the minister. For example, Mrs. Gandhi imposed the emergency in the 1975 without the cabinet approval. Later, some changes was, some amendment was took place to the constitution and included that important decisions like imposing emergency, etc., should be taken with the approval of the Council of Ministers only. A single person cannot take such type of decisions. If you examine the demonetization policy, Narendra Modi first convened a Council of Ministers meeting, discussed the same in that meeting, later he announced the demonetization. So, in our country, we have different roles to the different persons. Prime Minister has his own role, each minister has separate role as a cabinet minister of particular particular department. Entire Council of Ministers has separate role. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to coordinate, to regulate all these activities according to the constitution, according to the rules. That is why we are calling that our Prime Minister is a keystone in the arch of the cabinet. He is an important person. At the same time, if you examine the parliamentary system, as far as the policies and programs of the parliamentary system, our parliamentary system says that all ministers are same. I am talking about the theory. All ministers enjoys the equal position. Prime Minister will call as a first among the equals. First among the equals. He is the first person and other ministers also equal to the Prime Minister. But because of his position, because of his powers, because of his roles as discussed now, he has become an important person in the cabinet. Because other ministers' survival depends on the Prime Minister. Prime Minister allot the departments to the ministers, he can change the departments, he can also ask the resignation of particular minister if he is not according to the policies of the government. Because of all these things, we can say that Prime Minister has become more important than the other ministers. And once again, the importance, strength, powers of the Prime Minister depends on the party supported to him. As I said, Manmohan Singh led a coalition government with the help of several political parties. All political parties enjoyed the equal powers. So, we cannot compare the Narendra Modi as a Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh as a Prime Minister. Both of them ruled the country with the help of same constitution, but support of his party is different. Because Congress party does not have the total majority, Congress party cannot support the Manmohan Singh. We cannot say that Manmohan Singh has enjoyed the same powers which is enjoying by the Narendra Modi. So, you have to study the what is the theory and what is practice, what is happening in the country, in what under what condition certain things are happening in the country, what is mentioned in the constitution, Okay. So, in this way you have to study the Council of Ministers, Prime Minister and the ministers. At the same time, we also have a say on the Prime Minister's post in our country. Instead of parliamentary type of government, it has become a prime ministerial type of government. That means, Prime Minister has become more powerful, Prime Minister enjoying more powers than others. In that way, Prime Minister theoretically is first among the equal, in practice he has become more powerful than others. So, one has to look into the details of the details, because of which reasons he has gained, he has acquired more powers, that also one has to study. For example, you take the party system. This is the one of the reasons for the increase of powers of the Prime Minister. Since he is the important leader in the political party, his role is important in allotting the tickets to the different persons during the period of elections. He selects the team, he commands the party, he controls the party. So, party, with the help of the party support, he is gaining, Prime Minister gaining more powers than the other ministers. At the same time, we also see that the decline of the standards of the members of the parliament. If the parliament members have the total knowledge, total information about the issues occurring in the country, they can question, they can check the government, and government will be in a different manner. Because of the several reasons, because of the so many occurrings, because of the lack of times, whatever it may be, present members are not that important, are not showing that importance to the study or knowing the problems facing by the country. When standards decline, automatically other persons gain that powers. When there is no challenge to the political system, whatever they say, that will become a final. So, in that manner, we can see the gradual decline of the standards or the examining the issues by the members is another reason for the increase of the powers or the status of the Prime Minister in our country. Charisma is the another condition, another reason for the increase of the standards or strength or the powers of the Prime Minister. Now, the elections are run, elections are conducted, fight on the basis of the charisma of the particular person. You take the Indira Gandhi, you take the Sonia Gandhi, you take the Narendra Modi, you take the KCR, Jayalalitha. See, all these type of leaders, whoever coming to the election, whoever facing the election, they are asking, they are getting the votes on the basis of their charisma. Once members elected on the basis of the charisma of particular person, automatically members have to follow, obey to the leaders on whose charisma they have got elected. That is the other reason for the increase of the strength of the Prime Minister in our country. Another thing is that populist schemes. Every person who is coming to the power is implementing a particular populist schemes, like 2 rupees rice kg scheme, 20.4 programs policies, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, okay, pension schemes, whatever it may be, 108, though 108 is a welfare scheme and useful to the people, that clearly giving a picture that this particular scheme is given by particular leader. On the say, even today, 2 rupees rice scheme, when you use the word, immediately people remember that this scheme was launched by the N.T. Ramarao. This type of populist schemes, these schemes are launched on the name of the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister, so on the name of the leader. So, this type of populist schemes giving more strength to the Prime Minister, and he is become more popular, acquiring more and more powers in our country. Another reason for the acquiring more powers by the Prime Minister is that mass media. Media is projecting one person as a leader, ignoring other person, or a leader who wants to be in limelight is trying to be in the media every day. In that way, one person is emerging as a leader or mass leader with the help of the mass media. Media also projecting particular person as a leader. Another reason for the increase of the Prime Minister powers is that external affairs, participation in the international affairs, international peace meetings, sometimes war also giving more powers to the Prime Minister. You take that after 1971 war, Indira Gandhi got more seats because of the victory of India in Indo-Bangladesh war. After 1991 Kargil war, Vajpayee got more seats. So, recently you see that South Asia satellite. So, in this manner, though an external affair minister is there to look after the external affairs, Prime Minister is involving actively in the external affairs, and because of his external affairs, he is getting more popularity in and outside of the country. Recently, our political system is changed into another form. In the parliamentary system, first elections will be conducted to the MLAs and MPs. After the elections, these MLAs and MPs elect on the basis of majority their Prime Minister and Chief Minister. This is our system, but our elections are fought on the name of a particular person, that is who will be our Chief Minister if elections are won, like KCR. Suppose in the year 2019 elections will be held to the Telangana, TRS will declare before the elections that KCR is our leader. Similarly, at the national level, BJP also declares that Narendra Modi will be our Prime Minister. Like that, our elections are conducting on the basis of the who is your President, Prime Minister, who is your Chief Minister. This is not allowed to the parliamentary system. After the election only one has to decide the Chief Minister. For example, you take Tamil Nadu, in between after the death of the Jayalalitha, legislature decided the Chief Minister, not during the elections. This is our system, but in practice what is happening, before the elections, political parties are deciding their Chief Minister or their Prime Minister and going for elections. Once he elected on that basis, naturally he gains more powers than the other ministers or other members. Because of these reasons, gradually our system has become prime ministerial type of government instead of parliamentary type of government. Whatever it may be, I request our student, you try to understand what is there in our constitution, what is happening in practice. You can understand this development by reading the newspapers every day, because every day you come across what is role playing by the President of India, what is role playing by the Prime Minister, what is role playing as other ministers, what is the coordination between all these things, all these departments, everything will be available on everyday newspapers. By verifying this, you can easily understand what is happening in our country, what is there in our constitution. In this way, you try to prepare and be ready to face the competitive exams of your choice. This is the thing you have to remember.
రైట్ సార్. ఇప్పుడు ఇందులో దేని మీద మీరు చెప్పిన ప్రధానమంత్రి విధులు అధికారాలు దేనిపై ఎక్కువగా ఫోకస్ చేయాలి? టోటల్ టాపికా లేదు ఎట్లా అడగవచ్చు క్వశ్చన్స్, ఎలాంటివి వస్తాయి?
సాధారణంగా ఎలాంటి క్వశ్చన్లు వస్తాయంటే అండి, ప్రధానమంత్రి, రాష్ట్రపతి వీళ్ళిద్దరి మధ్యలో ఉండే సంబంధాలు. ఉదాహరణకి రాజ్యాంగాన్ని పరిశీలిస్తే మొత్తం అధికారాలు రాష్ట్రపతి దగ్గర ఉన్నట్టు కనిపిస్తుంది. రాజ్యాంగాన్ని పరిశీలిస్తే కానీ ఆర్టికల్ 74 ఏం చెప్తుందంటే రాష్ట్రపతి తన అధికారాలను నేరుగా వినియోగించడానికి వీలు లేదు. ప్రధానమంత్రి నాయకత్వంలోని మంత్రిమండలి సలహాపై ఈ అధికారాలను ఉపయోగించాలని చెబుతుంది. సో ఇలాంటి ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ మీకు ఎగ్జామినేషన్ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ వ్యూలో ఉపయోగపడతాయి. ఈ విధంగా మంత్రిమండలి ఏ విధంగా ఉంటుంది, ప్రధానమంత్రి ఏ విధంగా ఉంటుంది, వాళ్ళ అధికారాలు ఏ విధంగా ఉంటాయి, వీటిని గమనిస్తూ మనం చదువుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది తప్ప ఎన్నిక విధానము తర్వాత మిగతా అంశాలపైన అంత ప్రాధాన్యత ఇవ్వాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు.
సార్ మనకు కాలర్ ఉన్నారు, మాట్లాడదాం. మీ పేరు, మీరు ఎక్కడి నుంచి చేస్తున్నారో చెప్పి డౌట్ ఏంటో అడగండి సార్ని.
సార్ గుడ్ ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ సార్.
చెప్పండి సార్.
ఫ్రమ్ నల్గొండ సార్.
ఓకే
సార్, కెన్ యూ గివ్ డీటెయిల్స్ ఆఫ్ వాట్ ఆర్ ద ఆర్టికల్స్ డిస్క్రైబ్ అబౌట్ ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ అండ్ ఆల్సో వాట్ ఆర్ దేర్ salaries, okay, and also the means articles regarding their appointment and duties of a prime minister. So please can you give us some details, sir? And also what are the topics covered under Indian Constitution, sir? So that means in examinations, what are the topics is going to be covered under Indian Constitution, political system?
See, what are the topics means for which examination you are asking?
Hello?
Different examinations are there. For each examination has different syllabus, different chapters. For which examination you need the clarification?
గురుకులం సార్.
Gurukulam. See, as far as the articles are concerned, just now I said that majority articles are explaining about the powers of the President of India, like 352, 356, okay, 360. Majority articles. Just 74 onwards, one article explains that there will be a council of ministers under the leadership of Prime Minister to aid and advise to the President of India. President of India has to work on the aid and advice of the Prime Minister. So except this, I don't think you have other articles to remember as far as the Council of Ministers is concerned. You remember one thing, President and Prime Minister relations is concerned, there are areas where President has the independent role in few areas only. After the elections, while before forming the cabinet, and at the time of dissolution of the Lok Sabha, like in few issues, President has the liberty or independent opinion, or he can take decision independently, whereas in all other areas he has to act on the advice of the Prime Minister or the Council of Ministers only. He cannot act independently. That is why I said that you try to follow the role of the Prime Minister, role of the Council of Ministers, coordination between the Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister, coordination between the President and Prime Minister. In this way you try to follow the political system.
రైట్ సార్. మరి మనకు మరో కాలర్ ఉన్నారు. మీ పేరు ఎక్కడి నుంచి చేస్తున్నారో చెప్పి డౌట్ అడగండి సార్ని.
కరీంనగర్ నుంచి కాల్ చేస్తున్నామండి.
చెప్పండి
సార్, ఈ టాపిక్లో ఎంతవరకు వచ్చో తెలుసుకుందామని. హలో,
అడగండి. మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి క్లియర్ అడుగుతారా టాపిక్లో?
సార్, ఈ టాపిక్లో ఎంత డెప్త్ వరకు క్వశ్చన్స్ వస్తాయో తెలుసుకుందామని. ఎంతవరకు రావచ్చు సార్?
ఓకే, డెప్త్ అంటే చూడండి, క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్ సెట్ చేసే సార్ యొక్క ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఏ ఏరియాలో ఉంటుందని చెప్పడం ఎవరికి సాధ్యం కాదండి. సపోజ్ ఒకసారు థియరీ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్లో ఏముంది అన్నదానికి ప్రాధాన్యత ఇవ్వకపోవచ్చు, వాస్తవంలో ఏం జరుగుతుంది అన్నదానికి ప్రాధాన్యత ఇవ్వవచ్చు. ఆ సార్కి పేపర్ సెట్ చేయమని ఇస్తే అతను ఏం చేస్తాడంటే వాస్తవంలో ఏం జరుగుతుందో దానిపైన క్వశ్చన్ సెట్ చేస్తాడండి. ఇంకొకసారికి కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్లో ఏముంది, ఏ ఆర్టికల్స్ ఉన్నాయన్న దానిపైన అతనికి ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఉంటే కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్లో ఉన్న అంశాలపైనే కేంద్రీకరిస్తూ అతను క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్ సెట్ చేసే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. విద్యార్థులుగా మనం ఏం చేయగలమంటే మొత్తం చదువుకోవడం తప్ప మన ముందు వేరే ఆప్షన్ లేదండి. కనుక ఇక్కడ డీప్గా చదువుకోవడము, క్రిటికల్ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ చదువుకోవడమే మన ముందున్నటువంటి మార్గం తప్ప డెప్త్ గురించి గెస్ చేయడం అనేది అంత సమంజసం కాదు.
సార్, ఇప్పుడు అయితే జనరల్గా అందరికీ ఈ క్వశ్చన్ ఉంటుంది. అసలే మళ్ళీ మొన్నటిదాకా ఈ గ్రూప్స్కి సంబంధించి చదువున్నారు కదా, సో ఆ మూడ్లో ఉండి ఎక్కువగా చదవాలని, ఒకటి లైట్ తీసుకుంటే భయం ఏమో, లోతుగా చదివితే ఇంకా ఎక్కువ చదవాలి ఈ భయం ఉంటుంది. సో ఈ బ్యాలెన్స్ని ఎట్లా మెయింటైన్ చేయాలనేది మీకే కాదు వచ్చే ప్రతి గెస్ట్ని అడుగుతూ ఉంటారు.
ఇప్పుడు సమస్య అది కాదండి. ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఆల్రెడీ గ్రూప్స్కి చదువుతూ ఉంటే ఆ నాలెడ్జ్ గురుకులాలకు సరిపోతుంది. అందుకని ఎక్కువ డీప్గా చదవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఎందుకంటే మీరు గ్రూప్స్ చదువుతున్నారు అంటేనే డీప్గా చదివినట్టు.
ఓకే,
కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ వరకు, మిగతా సబ్జెక్ట్స్ నేను చెప్పట్లేదండి. ఇండియన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్, భారత రాజ్యాంగం వరకు మీరు గ్రూప్స్ చదువుతున్నారు అంటే దాదాపుగా డీప్గా చదివినట్టే. అంతకన్నా ఎక్కువ డీప్గా గురుకులాలకు అవసరం లేదు. కనుక అవి చదువుతూ, అందుకొరకు నేను చెప్పాను నా లెక్చర్ కంటిన్యూ చేస్తూ మీరు చదువుతూ ప్రతిరోజు న్యూస్ పేపర్లో చూస్తూ ఉంటే ఆ అంశాలు ఎక్కడో ఒక చోట మీకు కనిపిస్తూ ఉంటాయి. చదివిన అంశాలు న్యూస్ పేపర్ అంశాలను మీకు కోరిలేట్ చేసుకుంటే మీకే సమాధానాలు కనిపిస్తుంటాయి. ఆ సమాధానాల ఆధారంగా మీరు గుర్తుపెట్టుకొని మీ కాంపిటేటివ్ ఎగ్జామ్స్ని ఫేస్ చేస్తే బాగుంటుంది.
రైట్ సార్, ఇక ఫైనల్గా మరి ఇండియన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్కి సంబంధించి టోటల్గా గురుకులం అభ్యర్థులకు మీరు ఇచ్చే టిప్ కానీ సలహా సూచన?
స్టాండర్డ్ బుక్స్, టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ ఏమైనా చదవండి. గురుకుల విద్యార్థుల వరకు మీరు ఇంగ్లీష్ మీడియం వాళ్ళు అయితే ఎన్సీఆర్టీ బుక్స్ ఉన్నాయి మీకు 7th to 10th, అవి సరిపోతాయి.
సార్, ఒకసారి దీనికన్నా ముందు ఒక కాలర్ ఉన్నారు మనకు. మీరు ఎక్కడి నుంచి చేస్తున్నారు, మీ పేరెంట్ చెప్పి సార్ని డౌట్ అడగండి. హలో హలో రైట్, ఫోన్ కట్ అయినట్లుందండి, చెప్పండి.
స్టాండర్డ్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ మీకు ఉన్నాయండి. ఇంగ్లీష్ మీడియం వాళ్ళకి, తెలుగు మీడియం వాళ్ళకి. గురుకులాల వరకు మీరు డిగ్రీ, పీజీ లెవెల్ అంత డీప్గా పోవాల్సిన అవసరం అంతగా ఉండదు. 7th to 10th ఎన్సీఆర్టీ బుక్స్ అయినా సరే, మన స్టేట్ గవర్నమెంట్ పబ్లిష్ చేసిన బుక్స్ అయినా సరే, అందులో నుంచి సివిక్స్ పార్ట్లో మీరు చదువుకుంటే మ్యాక్సిమం కవర్ అవుతుంది ఇండియన్ పొలిటికల్ సిస్టమ్ లేదా కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ విషయంలో. అంతకన్నా డీపు ఈ ఎగ్జామ్స్కి అవసరం ఉండదు.
సివిక్స్ ఓకే అంట.
సివిక్స్ ఓకే అండి.
సార్, కాలర్ ఉన్నారు, మాట్లాడండి సార్తో. మీ పేరు ఎక్కడి నుంచి చేస్తున్నారు చెప్పి సార్తో మాట్లాడండి, మీ డౌట్ ఏంటి అడగండి. హలో హలో మళ్ళీ ఫోన్ లైన్ కట్ అయినట్లుందండి. రైట్, ఇక మీరు ఇచ్చే సలహా అయిపోయిందా? ఇంకా
సలహా కాదండి, మీరు సిలబస్ చూసుకోండి. ఇంతకుముందు కూడా డిస్కషన్లో జరిగింది ఏంటంటే సిలబస్ చూసుకోండి. సిలబస్లో స్పష్టంగా చాప్టర్స్ చెప్తారు. ఏ చాప్టర్స్ నుంచి అంటే భారత రాజ్యాంగం అంటే పెద్ద ఓషన్లా ఉంటుంది. భారత రాజ్యాంగం అని ఒక పదం పట్టుకొని ఎక్కడ చదవాలి అన్నది కాకుండా సిలబస్లోనే స్పష్టంగా చెప్తారు. భారత రాజ్యాంగంలో ఏ అంశాలకు ప్రాధాన్యత ఇస్తున్నారు, ఎక్కడెక్కడ చదవాలి అన్నది మనకు చెప్తూ ఉంటారు. ఆ అంశాలకు సంబంధించిన విషయాలను తీసుకొని ఆ అంశాలకు సంబంధించిన వాటిని మీరు ఫోకస్ చేసుకుంటూ చదవడము మంచిది. అలా కాకుండా వేరే అంశాలకు ప్రాధాన్యత ఇస్తే సమయం వృధా తప్ప అంతకన్నా వేరే మార్గం ఏమి ఉండదండి అందులో.
వేరే అంశాలకు ప్రాధాన్యం ఇవ్వడం కూడా జరుగుతుంటుందా కొన్ని సందర్భాలు?
ఉదాహరణకు అండి, భారత రాజ్యాంగం అంటే భారత రాజ్యాంగంలో చారిత్రక అంశాలు కూడా ఉంటాయి. మనకు స్వాతంత్ర ఉద్యమం కన్నా ముందు ఏమొచ్చింది, స్వాతంత్ర ఉద్యమం కన్నా ముందు రాజ్యాంగాలు మనకు ఉన్నాయి. ఆ రాజ్యాంగాలు ఏ విధంగా ఉన్నాయి, ఆ రాజ్యాంగాల యొక్క ప్రభావము మన రాజ్యాంగం పైన ఏముంది, ఇవన్నీ కూడా రాజ్యాంగంలో భాగమే. ఇన్ని ఉన్నప్పుడు అది కూడా రాజ్యాంగంలో భాగమని చరిత్ర చదవడం మనకు అనవసరం. అదేవిధంగా రాజ్యాంగంలో చాలా వరకు మీరు కాంపిటేటివ్ ఎగ్జామ్స్, పోటీ పరీక్షలు చూస్తే ప్రధానమంత్రి, రాష్ట్రపతి, ప్రాథమిక హక్కులు, నిర్దేశ నియమాలు, కేంద్ర రాష్ట్ర సంబంధాలు, ఇలాంటి విషయాలపైన ఎక్కువ ఫోకస్ చేస్తూ ప్రశ్నలు కనిపిస్తూ ఉంటాయి. రాజ్యాంగంలో ఇవి కాక వేరే అంశాలు చాలా ఉంటాయి, కానీ పోటీ పరీక్షల లోపల వాటి గురించిన ప్రశ్నలు తక్కువగా కనిపిస్తాయి. అలా నేను చదువుకోవద్దని చెప్పట్లేదు కానివ్వండి, జనరల్గా మీరు క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్స్ చూస్తూ ఉంటే ఏ చాప్టర్స్ నుంచి అంటే ప్రాథమిక హక్కుల నుంచి ఎక్కువ అడుగుతున్నారా, నిర్దేశ నియమాల నుంచి అడుగుతున్నారా, కేంద్ర రాష్ట్ర సంబంధాలు అడుగుతున్నారా, రాష్ట్రపతి అడుగుతున్నారా, ప్రియాంబుల్ అడుగుతున్నారా, అవి మీకు తెలుస్తూ ఉంటుంది. దాని ప్రకారం ఏంటంటే జనరల్గా ఈ ఏరియాస్ పైన ఫోకస్ చేస్తున్నారు కనుక ఆ ఏరియాస్ పైన మనం కూడా ప్రాధాన్యత ఇస్తే బాగుంటుందన్న ఉద్దేశంతో ఆ ఏరియాస్ చదువుకుంటే మీకు సమయం కలిసి వస్తుంటుంది.
అదే సార్, జనరల్గా ఆ లైన్ దగ్గరనే మిస్ అయిపోతుంటారు. అంటే ఎక్కడ దాకా చదవాలి అనేదే కరెక్ట్గా తెలియక, ముఖ్యంగా ఇంకా రూరల్ వాళ్ళకైతే. సో బై డిఫాల్ట్ ఆ నేచర్ వస్తుందా, లేకపోతే ఇంకా ఏం చేయాలి, కోచింగ్లోనే మనకు అది తెలిసిపోతుంది?
లేదండి, కోచింగ్ కాదు, మీకు అక్కడ స్పష్టంగా సిలబస్ ఇస్తారు. మీరు ఏ ఎగ్జామ్కు మీరు వెళ్తున్నారో ఆ ఎగ్జామ్స్కి సిలబస్ ఇస్తారు. సపోజ్ భారత రాజ్యాంగం అన్న చోట ఎస్ఎస్సి స్టాండర్డా, ఇంటర్మీడియట్ స్టాండర్డా చెప్తాడు, అక్కడే సిలబస్లో చెప్తారు. మీకు సిలబస్లో చెప్పకుండా ఏది చెప్పరు, ఏ పరీక్ష ఉండదండి. ఖచ్చితంగా మీరు సిలబస్ చూడండి, సిలబస్ లోపల అంశాలను ప్రస్తావిస్తారు, ఏ అంశాలపైన ప్రాధాన్యత ఉంటుంది, ఆ అంశాలకు సంబంధించిన విషయాలను చదవాలి తప్ప వేగ్గా ఏ పరీక్ష నిర్వహించబడదు. స్పష్టంగా గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి, ఈ వేగ్గా అంటే భారత రాజ్యాంగం అన్న ఒక పదంతో ఏ పరీక్ష నిర్వహించబడదు. భారత రాజ్యాంగంలో ఏ అంశాలకు ప్రాధాన్యత ఇస్తున్నారు, అది ఏ స్టాండర్డ్ కూడా చెప్తారు. అంటే 10వ తరగతి స్టాండర్డా, ఇంటర్మీడియట్ స్టాండర్డా, డిగ్రీ స్టాండర్డా, ఈ రకంగా స్టాండర్డ్ కూడా మెన్షన్ చేస్తారు. ఏ అంశాలకు ప్రాధాన్యత ఇస్తారో అక్కడ చెప్తారు. సిలబస్ చూస్తే మీ సమస్య సగం తగ్గుతుందండి. సిలబస్ చూడకుండా చదవడం అనేది సమంజసం కాదు.
రైట్ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. సబ్జెక్ట్ గురించి మంచిగా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేసినందుకు మీకు థ్యాంక్ యూ. ఇది వాళ్ళ స్పెషల్ ప్రోగ్రామ్. నమస్తే.